Imagine you witness a car accident and later you're required to give evidence. A lawyer asks you, how fast do you think the cars were going when they smashed into each other? You think you remember the incident and you're pretty sure that you've got your facts clear, so you give a confident estimate. But what if that single verb that the lawyer used, smashed, has subconsciously changed what you think you saw, misleading you into giving inaccurate information? I'm David Meeker, tutor and creator of educational materials, and in this video I'm looking at how memory can be changed after an event has happened. We'll cover key studies by Loftus and Palmer and Gabbert et al., and I'll go through the AQA required explanations like response bias, substitution, memory contamination, and memory conformity. The key idea in this presentation is that forgetting is not the only problem in eyewitness memory. A witness might remember an event, but then later information can reshape that memory. Understanding studies about misleading information is important because it shows memory is not like a video recording. Instead, memory is reconstructive, meaning it can be rebuilt, updated, and sometimes even distorted when we retrieve it. And that distortion can happen through leading questions asked by authorities such as police interviews and post-event discussion between witnesses. We'll look at both of these ideas. Let's start with leading questions. In 1974, Loftus and Palmer carried out a laboratory experiment to test whether leading questions affect eyewitness estimates and recall. 7 films of traffic accidents were shown to 45 participants, and following each film, they received a questionnaire asking them about the details. And the critical question was one that asked about the speed of the vehicles involved in the collision. There were 45 participants, and 9 of them were asked about how fast were the cars going when they hit each other. Equal numbers of the remaining participants were asked the same question, but with the verb hit replaced by smashed, collided, bumped, or contacted. And the results of this experiment indicate that the form of a question, in this case changes in a single word, can significantly affect a witness's answer to that question. As you can see from the chart, there was a positive relationship between the intensity of the verb used and the mean speed reported by the participants. This is an example of response bias. And what that means is that the witness's memory of an incident doesn't change, but the way a question about it is worded can influence the way they recall that incident. 1 week later, Loftus and Palmer did a second memory experiment when the same participants as before were asked whether they'd seen broken glass in the film clips. Now, there hadn't been any broken glass, but it was found that the participants who'd seen the word smashed were more likely to say that they'd seen broken glass than those who had responded to the question where the milder verb hit had been used. This is an example of substitution. Substitution occurs when one piece of information takes the place of another in memory. In this case, for some participants, the correct memory that there was no broken glass was replaced by a false memory of broken glass. The substitution explanation suggests that the way a question is worded can cause this to happen. Misleading information can alter an aspect of a memory so that it becomes incorporated into the memory trace, substituting for the original detail. And as a result, the witness genuinely believes that the altered version is what they actually saw. Now let's move to post-event discussion. Post-event discussion happens when witnesses talk to each other after the event that they've seen. They may do this naturally, for example, while waiting for police to arrive. But the thing is, there's a risk here that witnesses exchange details, and some of those details may not be accurate. So post-event discussion can introduce misleading information socially from another person rather than from an interviewer. A key study here was that done by Fiona Gabbert and colleagues in 2003. In that experiment, pairs of participants watched a video of a staged crime. Each person saw the event from a different viewpoint, meaning that each witness had access to some unique details that the other had not seen. For instance, from one camera angle, you could see a book title, but not from another. And after viewing the video, some pairs were allowed to discuss what they'd seen, while others recalled the event individually. And the participants who did not discuss the event acted as a control group, providing a comparison condition. The findings were clear and striking. Around 71% of participants who discussed the event later reported details that they had not seen themselves and could only have obtained from their partner. In contrast, participants in the control group were far more accurate, with only about 38% reporting incorrect details. And this suggests that post-event discussion can reduce the accuracy of eyewitness testimony, because witnesses may incorporate information from other people into their own memory, leading to inaccurate recall. Let's now look at two possible explanations of why post-event discussion affects memory. And these are memory contamination and memory conformity. We'll begin with memory contamination. And this means the new information actually mixes with the original memory so that the witness may not be able to separate what they saw from what they heard later. So the memory itself becomes distorted. Then there's memory conformity. This means a witness may go along with others' accounts due to social reasons. For example, they might trust the other witness more, doubt themselves, want to avoid conflict, or just want to fit in. And in this case, the witness's report changes, but it is possible that the memory has not changed. Now, before we move on to the evaluation part of this topic, just a quick reminder that there's a link in the description to an interactive facts revision worksheet. You can do it as often as you like, including on your phone. And if you'd like extra support, I also offer one-to-one online tutoring tailored to your needs. Now, let's evaluate the theories and studies, and I'll do that as you might when answering a 16-mark question, making a point, giving examples with an explanation, and then linking back with what I call a so what statement. And I'll get my AI voice to do the reading.
Evaluation Point 1. Real-world application. Research into misleading information has improved how police interviews and questioning of witnesses in court are conducted. For example, interviewers are trained to avoid leading questions and to use careful neutral wording. Therefore, if misleading questions can alter recall, then changing interview technique should reduce contamination and improve accuracy. This increases the practical value of the research because it helps protect against wrongful convictions based on unreliable EWT. Evaluation. Point 2. Ecological validity and emotional realism. A limitation is that many studies use artificial tasks, which may not fully represent real eyewitness situations. For instance, Loftus and Palmer used film clips and student participants in a controlled environment, whereas real crimes often involve stress, threat, and high stakes, which could affect attention, encoding, and later recall. So findings from calm lab settings may not generalize perfectly. This reduces ecological validity. meaning the results may not fully apply to real-life witnesses. Evaluation. Point 3. Demand characteristics and guessing. Another limitation is that participants may work out the aim of the study and adjust their answers to match what they think the experimenter wants to know. If participants guess what is expected, their speed estimates or later answers could reflect compliance rather than genuine memory distortion. This challenges the internal validity of the research because we cannot be fully sure the effect is due to memory change. Evaluation. Point 4. Evidence that memory can genuinely change. There is evidence that misleading information can alter memory, supporting the substitution explanation. For instance, in Loftus and Palmer's follow-up, participants were more likely to report broken glass that did not exist, and that suggests the misleading word influenced later reconstruction of memory, not just the immediate response. This supports the argument that EWT can be unreliable because memory itself can be changed by post-event information. Evaluation. Point 5. Post-event discussion. Contamination versus conformity. A strength of the post-event discussion research is that it highlights both cognitive and social processes. For example, Gabbert et al. Showed that discussion increases the reporting of details not actually seen, with some witnesses genuinely incorporating new details. That's contamination. While others may simply agree for social reasons. That's conformity. This helps explain why witness statements following discussion sometimes become similar over time, reducing independence and reliability. Evaluation. Point 6. Individual differences and confidence. Not all witnesses are equally vulnerable to misleading information. Confidence, age, and memory ability can all influence susceptibility. So, a confident witness may resist conformity pressures, whereas an uncertain witness may accept others' details. This suggests misleading information effects are not uniform, so interviewers should also consider witness characteristics when receiving eyewitness testimony.
That's the full breakdown of misleading information as a factor affecting the accuracy of eyewitness testimony, particularly for AQA psychology. Remember the interactive revision worksheet in the description, and if you want extra help, I offer one-to-one online tutoring. Details are also below. If this helped you, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.